So what we have here is the Bartington gradiometer. We call it the MAG for short because it measures magnetic fields. And it has two sensors, left and right, and that lets you collect data twice as fast as if you just had one. Each sensor has a top and a bottom sensor on it. And each sensor is composed of two coils of wire, essentially. So one coil of wire has electricity running through it and is generating magnetic field, which interacts with the ambient magnetic field around it and affects how much the second coil of wire is detecting of that field. So we have a sensor at the top and a sensor at the bottom. The sensor at the top is measuring just the Earth's ambient magnetic field. So that can change over time, that can change with location. By measuring that, we can subtract it from the bottom. The bottom one is detecting the Earth's ambient magnetic field and also any effects due to the ground. And so subtracting top from bottom, we are left with just the effects of the ground, and that way we get comparable measurements. So before we can do anything, we need to check ourselves for metal. And so I'm looking at the screen here and I've got -5 on one side, 13 on the other. That just means that there's something in this area that's affecting these differently. But what you do is you stand back, see what the numbers are. It's about 5 on the left. And if I take my hat off and I put it next to the sensor, it doesn't change. Maybe it goes up or down 0.1 nanotesla, that's totally fine. If I take my shoes though, and I hold it up like this, it goes up or down 20 or 30. That's way too much. I can't do magnetometry with these shoes on. So the first thing we need to do in order to calibrate is to find an area that has relatively little variation in it, no metal, and as little change as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a scan, and I'm just going to kind of walk forwards and backwards over the area, scan kind of a couple passes, make sure that there's as few changes as possible in here. You know, it's going up or down 3 or 4, maybe 5, but not a whole lot. Turn 90 degrees and do the same thing, make sure that it stays consistent as I move forward and backwards. And this area looks great, so we can calibrate here.
All right, so third thing we need to do is calibrate. To do that, we have to set up the north, south, east, west using a handy dandy compass. So what I'm going to do is just find north. North is that way. I'm going to go ahead and put a stake in with the pink tape to signify north. And then I'm going to do the same thing with south. East, west. And then just place your little stool metal free. All right, first up, make sure you return the compass to your partner. No metal on you. We're gonna first go to adjust gradiometer, and then we're gonna calibrate. So right now it's telling me to point the arrows north, so we already set that up. I'm just facing towards the north stake. Hit enter, makes a little beep, and then we're gonna point south. And let it do its thing. And then east. And make sure that these are always level with the ground, or parallel, no, perpendicular, we got there. And then west. Now it's going to say to invert. We're going to remember if I to this right, go down, over, and again, perpendicular. And then there's a little green dial over here, or a button. This one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so you can just flick that, and there's the beep. Then you go back, and it will tell you to restore west. So make sure you're facing west, and then hit enter again. And you're going to do this all again once minus the inversion. And then it will tell you to enter to exit.
So we're going to adjust the settings on the gradiometer. On the first one is pace. That's how quickly you're going to be walking to take your measurements. We currently have it set for 1.2, which is a great place to start. You can go faster if you're feeling comfortable or have longer legs, and slower if you need to. The next one is grid size. So this grid that we're working on right now is a 10 by 10, but you can also set it to 20 by 20, 30 by 30, and it looks like that's it. Start, we have start as north. That is more for the software later, it doesn't particularly matter. Pattern is zigzag, which means that we can go down and then back, and the machine will automatically reverse the lines and make sure that everything lines up correctly. We have lines per meter is 2 because we're doing a half meter spacing on the horizontal axis. We have samples per meter is 8. That can be higher or lower, but why not collect more data? Range is the maximum that the gradiometer will measure. So we have it set to 100, which is its lowest possible setting. That gives you as much data resolution as possible. If you're in a really noisy area with a lot of metal in it, you can set that up to a higher number, as 1,000, 5,000, something like that. And so you can collect data, but it's going to have a much poorer resolution, basically. Audio, you can turn that on or off depending on whether you want to hear the beeps. Volume, you can set low, medium, high. Threshold, we have 1 nanotesla is what that's set at. We have 2 sensors, obviously, so set that for 2. And reject 50 hertz, just leave that as it is. And then you hit save to save your settings.
When you are ready to start scanning, the first thing is you'll just hit enter to start survey. And then it'll say next grid number 2, and you'll enter again. Right now I'm standing at the 0.75 marker, so I have the right one at 1.25 and the left one is at 0.25. So every time you cross, you're scooching over 1 meter and doing 0.25 or 0.75 left to right. And then with the pace, so at every beep, it beeps at every 1 meter. So you want to make sure in your head you're kind of counting, using that metronome and going down at the right pace, because there's going to be, for us, since it's 10, we're trying to get to 10 meters under that same pace. Okay, so you notice it did a double beep at the end, so that is when it hits 10. So you always want to be aiming to cross the finish line, if you will, at the 10 meter where it double beeps. The other thing that James so recommended is it's useful to kind of keep your right foot as the beeping happens and just match your pace to that, because that kind of helps you get that pace smooth.